then what is some things that maybe didn't translate in wrestling because of the culture?
Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture.
And I'm Andy Murray from What Culture, and you're watching Tom Talks Rubbish.
Subscribe below.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and stand back with another interview. This time, I'm joined by Maggie from Coexisting on Fightful Overbooked. So welcome to the show, Maggie.
Thank you for having me, Tom. I'm a bit nervous.
You shouldn't be. I think this is going to be fun.
I've never been interviewed before. It's like
well,
not even for a job. Like I've never been.
Oh wow! So that was the thing. You were someone that I found really interesting and was like, oh, I'd love to sit down with her. So shout out to your co-host, by the way, who set this up for us. Like, big love to him. Big love to Rob, by the way.
Rob is a sweetheart. I love Rob.
Definitely. So if we take this back, where does Maggie first discover wrestling?
Oh, that's an interesting story. Like living in Bulgaria was, it still is kind of a, wrestling isn't that popular, but it used to be like back in the really, really late 2000s, early 2000s. We like only rich families kind of had cable. Yeah. And if you don't have cable, you only had 2 channels.
Oh, wow.
Channel 1 and Channel 2, respectively. Oh, wow. And Channel 2 stopped being a thing. And they started doing like this different channel for families who didn't have cable. And it started off launching at 4 or 5 p.m. only. And then in the early hours of the night, it launched Raw and SmackDown. And this was at the end of 1999, I suppose. And I used to, every Friday, my parents used to drop me and my sister over to my grandparents, and then they would come and pick us up on Sunday. And that is when Raw was launching, a month after the thing had launched. Like it had one month delay. Like we weren't on track. And I remember we were just flipping the 2 channels we had, you know? Yeah, and I saw The Rock doing a promo in front of a Raw is War sign. And I think it was Kevin Kelly who was interviewing him. Like I don't remember quite, but I saw The Rock. Like this was the first thing I saw, and my eyes were glued, like immediately, because I'm a simple girl. I fell in love with The Rock. Like I was, I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10 years old at the time, and my parents were, come on, like let's go, we need to go, and I'm like, quiet, like I need to see this. And my dad was like, that's fake, right? And I was like, how do you know what this is? Like, but he knew what this is, like, which was like, what the hell? How can he know? But I don't know. Like, my dad is a former weightlifting champion.
Oh, wow.
And he was, because here in Bulgaria back in the day, there was like boys after they graduate high school, they immediately went to the army, like for 2 years.
National service, I think that's what it's called.
Yes. Yeah, and he jumped with parachutes, but it was kind of exciting. And he did weightlifting, and he was he did football and all these things, and he was a tennis player and everything. And I was like, how do you know what this is? And I don't. Like, this is ridiculous. And I've been watching like a lot of a lot of wrestling back in the day, but like when The Rock left for Hollywood, I kind of fell out of it because like I didn't think that it was worth watching without The Rock being there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, it's not fair enough. Like it's no, you could say that I fell in love with The Rock, but not with wrestling. You know, you get me?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. And then I like, of course, like I was being ridiculed for watching wrestling, sure, because like I was a girl and the girls were making fun of me, but the boys were like, I remember this was a funny incident. The boys were, making wrestling moves to each other in the classroom during recess, and they were like, we had this boy who was really, really skinny, and the boys were making wrestling moves on him because he was really, really like light. And I see they were trying to choke slam him on the top of a school desk, and I was like, "You're not choke slamming him. You're making a rock bottom."
Oh no.
And they were like, well, what's the difference? And I grabbed him and I smashed the table with him by doing a choke slam. Yeah. And I was like, that's how you do a choke slam. And they were like,
I bet you were the most popular girl in school after that. I'm not.
No. Oh, hell no. Like I would, no. Like this was middle school, by the way. Like it's, yeah. No, I wasn't. I was a bit of bullied at the time, but it was like that's a whole different story. But like I remember getting in trouble for that, like not for assaulting my classmate, but for breaking a school desk.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so, and the time I went back to wrestling was when The Rock faced John Cena at WrestleMania for the title. That's when I started watching wrestling again.
Fair enough. So there's two questions that I have. What is some things that growing up in Bulgaria, wrestling translated to? Like, did wrestling translate easy? And then what is some things that maybe didn't translate in wrestling because of the culture and things like that?
Well, as I said, wrestling is still not a thing here. Like it's always about like if you watch wrestling, you're a kid basically.
Yeah,
it's I know very few people who watch wrestling, but they're more kind of what do you call them? How do you guys call them? Casuals, you know, who watch,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, who only watch like WrestleMania just for the fun of it, and maybe Royal Rumble. And almost no one knows about AEW here, or Impact, or Ring of Honor, GCW, and etc. Like they only know WWE because it was like the Attitude Era and whatever.
Yeah.
Like and if you mention, Bret Hart or the incident, or the Montreal Screwjob, like nobody will know what that is. Like they only know The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Vince McMahon, of course, the big names. But like it's still not a thing. Like it's there may be like 5 people in real life surroundings who know that I watch wrestling. And like 3 of them know that I'm doing a thing with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's frowned upon,
Why is it frowned upon? Is it because of the violence or?
No, because it's for kids. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're basically not a grown-up if you still do it. Like most recently I had to tell my mother what I do on Fightful because I left my equipment up like in the living room, and while I was working, she came to my apartment to leave me food because I can't cook. And she was like, yeah, what's that in your living room? And I was like, crap. And I told her everything, and she was like, you're never going to grow up, aren't you?
Don't grow up. That's boring.
Yeah, grown ups for sissies, like yeah.
I agree. So if we continue to your fandom, you said you started watching again when The Rock faced John Cena, correct? Is there anything that you've gone back and watched, maybe through your work with Fightful or just in your spare time, that you're like, okay,
I do not have spare time.
Fair enough. You stop.
Yes, I no, it's I've watched a fair amount of matches, and I can't possibly like remember all of them, but having in mind that while I was watching wrestling as a kid, we couldn't watch pay-per-views. Like
No.
you could watch pay-per-views if you had a computer, but I did not have a computer. Like I think the first time I got one, I was like 16 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, as I said, we didn't have a lot of money. And we were able to afford one when I was 16, and I didn't watch wrestling back then. But I've always like I've never stopped loving The Rock. Like I love all his movies. Having in mind that he was the one who got me into wrestling in the first place, and he was the one who brought me back.
Mm.
That's why
So,
he's gonna be like forever my favorite.
fair enough. So, but what is something maybe you've gone back and watched since in between, like stopping watching wrestling and being back in wrestling, that you're like, oh, I missed out on that as a fan?
Hmm. CM Punk.
Okay.
Yes, it was definitely CM Punk. I remember that because during my first job, I worked at an urban shop. Like I was a saleswoman, and I did piercings back in the day. And there were always these little kids who, like, we printed T-shirts. Like and a lot of kids came with a flash drive, and there were always pictures of CM Punk, and they wanted them to print them in shirts. And he was holding a title, and I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And he's like, "That's CM Punk. He's the best in the world." And I'm like, "No, he's not. He's probably not. The Rock is the greatest." And they didn't know who The Rock was. Like,
What?
no, like they were little. They've always watched him in movies, and they always say, like, The Rock left wrestling. He's a sissy, and I'm like, oh my god, I will kick your ass for that.
Isn't that crazy though? Some people that only know him as an actor now.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is pretty crazy. But like when I started watching wrestling again, I was like, so The Rock beat CM Punk for that title. I'm gonna need to watch CM Punk's work, and then I watched CM Punk's work, and of course I fell in love with him. But he was like the scummy heel, and it was about the time that they introduced the Shield, and I was like, who the hell are those three badasses? And like I think that, like, looking back, I think that WWE were pretty spot on with the Shield. I still miss the Shield. Yeah, that was one of the best things they did in recent history.
I agree. But then how do you connect with Fightful? Is it through Rob, or is it through just liking their work?
Oh, I like that. That's another funny thing. Like when the pandemic started in 2020, like I had to go from a really like all day working and being dynamic. I had to go through from that to being at home like all the time. And I started actually using my Twitter account, because I made a Twitter account at 2018, I want to say, because I started realizing that a lot of wrestling storylines developed on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I had to have one, but I didn't use it. Like I was only scrolling through it so I can know what was happening. Having in mind that the first person I ever followed on Twitter was AJ Lee.
Ooh.
Like, yeah, this was the first person I followed because I still love her so much. And like during the first pandemic, I started using my Twitter because I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
And yes, and I realized Fightful's work, which is really like strange, because I always loved Cultaholic and Wrestle Talk and What Culture, and all of them like got their news through Fightful.
Yeah.
And I've always heard Sean Rossap of Fightful.com. And I didn't really, know what that meant because I only had that little time before I had to go to work. But now that I had a lot of time on my plate, I was able to see what that meant, and I started following a lot of lovely people on Twitter and started interacting with them, and they actually saw that I knew what I was talking about because I wasn't just a regular viewer. Like I had insight, I had opinions, I had a different way of looking at things, and yeah, it kind of developed from there. Like I made friends with Sean, with Joel, and with Rob. I love Denise Salcedo. She's such a gem. Kate Hensler was a huge help because like she was always rooting for me ever since we met. And then Joel actually invited me on one of their watch-alongs for WrestleMania in 2021, I want to say. Maybe,
What was on the card?
2021. What?
What was on the match card?
Oh, like it was the first WrestleMania back with fans.
Yeah, that was 2021.
Yeah, and Sasha Banks against Bianca Belair. Like that's
Ooh.
Yes, this was an amazing match to watch. And the funny thing it was that right after night 2 of WrestleMania was like the Monday, and I had to go back to work right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was the first day back from quarantine, and so it ended at 8 a.m. for me, and I watched a part of the post show from for Fightful, and then I went straight to work because
Oh wow.
Yeah, because like Bulgarian time, it's 7 hours ahead.
Yes, Rob. There's more than one time zone in Europe.
Yeah,
Thank you
there
very
is
much.
more. Like Europe is not a whole country, guys.
That got me so much the other day. That was so funny.
Yeah.
That did kill me the other day. So, how does coexisting then come into your life?
It's like because one of the watch-alongs that Fightful did on Twitch, I think it was for SummerSlam 2021, and Joel was at the show, I think, or no, he wasn't on. No, he wasn't on the show. He was somewhere else, and he couldn't host the show. So Rob was hosting the show, and we found out that we had a pretty good dynamic, him and I, and we were good together on stream. And then I think that a couple of weeks after the SummerSlam watch along, he DM'd me and he said, "You know what? I think we make a pretty good team, and I'm just gonna throw it up there. How do you feel comfortable with hosting a show with me?" And I was just like, "I'm not ready, but don't stop asking me. Like, ask me again. I'm not ready."
Yeah.
And he didn't stop asking. Like I think that he gone like 2 or I want to say 3 months, but my memory sucks a lot. Yeah. So I couldn't remember. But he never stopped asking me, and I always said, "I'm not ready. I'm not ready, but please don't stop asking me." And I think it was during December. Like December is a really, really hard month for bartenders because it's really strong and dynamic, and people go to bars all the time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, during the Christmas holidays. And I was like, "You know what? Let's do it." And he was like, "Well, what? Okay."
What made the switch flip at that point?
Because I said during this hard time while I'm at work constantly, nonstop, without a day off, if I can do it through this time, I can do it all the time. So it was a kind of a test for me.
So it was sort of throwing yourself into the deep end sort of thing.
Yes, that's what I did. And I was like, if I can do this now, I can do this all the time. And he was like, oh my God, okay. But I don't think he expected me to say yes. Yeah, and we started doing it on Fightful Select at first, but then Fightful Overbooked became a thing, and Jeremy said that he wanted to have our show on Fightful Overbooked, and I was kind of nervous a lot because when we did it on Select, it was pre-recorded.
Yeah.
And when we started doing it on Fightful Overbooked, it became live, and I was flipping out, you know. And and people actually started sending us super chats, and I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, people are sending us money. Like, it's still weird to me. Like, we grew up to have really amazing supporters, and I love all of them, because nothing like this wouldn't be a thing without them, and I love each and every one of them so much.
Do you think coexisting would work if you had a different co-host, or if Rob had a different co-host, or is it the sort of thing where your chemistry, I don't want to lead the question, but your chemistry makes the show, sort of thing?
That's what it is. You said it yourself. I don't want to do coexisting with any other person. Like Rob, I think we just click together. Like, it's I'm usually, like, I'm pretty much a pretty easy person to get along with, but I don't want to do the show with anyone but Rob. Like, I was sick for a week at the start of the year, and Rob, actually, I told him, I don't want you to stop doing the show. So get a replacement, because I want to, like, keep this thing going, because we're on a good track here. And he got Drew Nicholas to co-host the show with him, and it was an amazing episode. But like, Rob, I think he's on the same page with me on this one. Like, the show doesn't exist with either one of us.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, there's no way.
What is something that Rob has taught you about YouTube and broadcasting in general?
He's still teaching me a lot of stuff. Like, he can play off of like, if I'm unsure about something, like, he always jumps in, you know. It's because I'm still not used to doing this, and it's still weird for me, you know. And he's always helped me so much, and he wants to teach me to produce, and I'm not good with computers and technology. I'm gonna tell you that. And he still needs to teach me this, just so I can help with stuff that he's doing a lot of, the carrying the bag, you know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I kind of want to help him with that a lot, but it's still, like, again, I'm not good with technology. Like, it's
fair enough.
Yeah, it's totally not my thing, but I suppose it must start at some point.
Fair enough. I can't believe I've waited so long to ask you this question, but what is a skill that you use as a bartender that you now use in your work with Fightful? And then what is the inverse of that question, a skill you picked up doing YouTube that you now use as a bartender?
Well, being a bartender means you need to be easygoing. So that's helped me with doing podcasts. But it's helped me the other way around. Like, being comfortable in front of a camera is something that I'm still getting used to. And like, all the drink videos I do for wrestlers, it's like, if you go back and watch my first video I did, and watch the latest video I did, like, it's had a lot of change. Like, my body language is different now, because I'm way more comfortable. Yeah, I'm way more relaxed, and it's made me comfortable with being in front of people, because, like, I don't like people. Yeah, it's not like bartending. Like, it's made me, like, deal with a lot of creeps and
I can imagine.
Yes, but and it's made me, like, have a little bit less faith in humanity, but podcasting has brought this back because you're able to be in touch with people who are different than the people you usually meet at work, and it's made things better. Actually, it's made me love what I do more. But at the end of the day, I can't wait to be Friday and do the podcast with Rob, because it's actually what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, wow. That's really cool to hear. But as we look at wrapping this up, because I do want to be respectful of your time, and just because I don't want the Zoom to crap out either, we're going to go into a segment now that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my videos before will know this is where I ask my guests their favorite match, favorite pay-per-view, favorite superstar or wrestler, favorite tag team, and favorite theme song of all time. Basically, questions that I'm sure they get asked on social media on a consistent basis, but now they'll have a place to go, look, I've answered this, please go watch this. So what's your favorite wrestling match of all time, Maggie?
Of all time? This is a really, really hard question. I don't think I can answer that so easily, but maybe, if I have to be honest, The Rock and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17.
Ooh, what's your thoughts on the heel turn?
I cried. Mm-hmm. So I suppose that they did it right. And the Raw after WrestleMania, when they had the steel cage match.
Mm.
And The Rock was just went out to Hollywood after that steel cage.
He went to film The Scorpion King, if I remember correctly.
Was it Scorpion King, or was it the second Mummy? I think
it might have been the second Mummy.
It was the second Mummy. Because I think that after Scorpion King filmed, I think he came back as a heel.
That's right. Okay. That's right. Yeah. I do apologize. Yeah.
So it was pretty emotional, and it was just it was a pretty gruesome match as well.
Favorite pay-per-view of all time?
Pay-per-view of all time. I don't want to repeat myself on the WrestleMania 17 thing, so I'm gonna go
fine.
out. No. I don't want to do that. So let's maybe say All Out 2019.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, because this was the pay-per-view that made me aware that there are different wrestling companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite wrestler of all time?
Yeah, of all time, it's The Rock. If
silly question. I do.
Yeah, if it's of all time, it's always going to be The Rock. But for now, it's Kenny Omega and AJ Styles, and they're yes.
Are they tied at the minute?
I think that they're tied. They're pretty tied. I've always said this, and people always laugh at this, but I want to make Sweet Sweet Love with Kenny Omega and AJ Styles' wrestling skills. That's not with them. No, I don't have that. But with what they do in the ring, it's magic. It's so flawless. Everything.
I agree. Favorite tag team of all time?
I'm that girl. It's the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
It's the Young Bucks, for sure. FTR are a close second. Don't get me wrong. But they're these different, tag teams, way different tag teams. You have the Spot Monkeys and the Grapplers,
Yeah.
and them both together have such good chemistry. It's ridiculous.
And then finally, as we look at wrapping this up, favorite wrestling theme of all time?
I suppose it's gonna be The Game from Motorhead. Yeah, I think it's that. It's the one theme that everyone in my bar knows.
Okay. Yes. And then as we look at wrapping this up, Maggie, the question that I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general, we're all sort of gonna live forever in some sort of way. So what is one video that you're like, don't go back and watch that? I've grown a lot since then. And then what is one that you're like, if you want to know my body of work, make sure you go check that out.
Like, what was the first question? Like, what video I do not want to watch ever again?
You don't want a video that you've done that you don't want the people to check out, like, again.
Oh, I don't think I have that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've ever had a video which no one needs to watch. Like,
Okay.
and if I did, I wouldn't tell anyone about it either.
Fair enough. So what is one that you want the good people to check out if they want to know your work?
Oh, I suppose it's all my drink videos I do on Twitter. Like, yeah, like it's the hashtag wrestling drinks. And every episode of Coexisting with Rob and me, like they're like different kinds of videos. Like one of them has wrestling and bartending, like those two things combined, like my two passions combined in one. And the second one is just talking about my forever love. It's wrestling with an incredible person that I found through Twitter, Rob.
Fair enough. So as we wrap this up, where can the good people find your content and you on social media or YouTube?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Maggie_IK, and you can find me on Instagram at Maggie.IK. You can find me on Fightful Overbooked every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern for Coexisting with Rob and me, and then at 4:30-ish.
Whenever you two finish the show, basically.
Yeah, whenever we finish the show, we go over to Fightful Select for Coexisting After Dark. It's called After Dark because it's always dark for me. Like right now, it's really like weird for me to have a podcast while it's light outside.
It's exactly the same for me because normally I'm doing these in the evening and it's like, oh, it's still lovely and sunny.
Yes, it's sunny out and I don't have my UV lights, burning my retina. So we go on to Fightful Select where we have different guests, which we always introduce our listeners and our watchers. We always aim at wholesomeness, and that's why we need people to meet other friends of ours who don't necessarily know them.
I agree. So if you guys like this video, it's well worth checking out all of Maggie's stuff. So if you guys like this video, make sure you like, share and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talks Rubbish. Follow bodyslam.net on YouTube for my show with Cassidy Haynes, the Wrestle Watch podcast. Follow bodyslam.net on Twitter to get updates on the show, and follow the Wrestle Watch podcast on Twitter to get updates. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.